as the token black girl within my friend group, I had to play Scary Spice each and every time. Don't worry, it did break me. We're working through it in therapy, yes. But I realized that maybe I was not being fully seen. I just really wanted to be Sporty Spice, not because of appearances, but because she represented everything I hoped people would see in me. She was confident, she had strength, she had ambition, she was respected for it. No one ever questioned her place or legitimacy, even amongst men. And she built that through her personal brand anchored in athleticism. But there I was, big, curly, frizzy hair, melanated skin, being forced to wear leopard print. Funny because leopard print is definitely a staple within my closet. I digress. But that was my first lesson in branding, well before I even knew what the word meant. Growing up, I spent so much time and energy trying to change the assumptions that were tied to the color of my skin, the texture of my hair. I was a multi-sport athlete, played just about all the sports. But there was one thing that stuck. I became the girl who runs really fast. It felt like a label that I proved I am in fact Sporty Spice, okay? You cannot tell me differently. I am her. But eventually, that image, that label, became less of an introduction and more of a limitation. People didn't even know my name sometimes. Oh, you know, that girl that runs really fast. You know that one girl, she runs all the time? That girl, yeah, her. But I didn't yet have the words or the language or the voice to tell people, hey, I am actually more than the sport that I happen to be good at. So I let it stand in for all of me. Because it was easier for me to let other people define who I was and for me to fit whatever that narrative was. I let it stand in for all of me. That became who I was. In middle school, my family and I, we moved from Fresno to Maryland, 3,000 miles away. No one knows that I run. I could be whoever I want to be. Say less, let's pack my bags, let's go. Right? High school rolled around and I slowly became that girl who runs fast and far. And of course, always challenged with a race because to prove that theory. Oh, I love that for me. This identity carried through all of high school, back here to Fresno, where I attended Fresno State right here, and ran women's cross country and track. Now, I understand the privilege in saying that. I do. I am so thankful for the opportunities that running has brought to my life. It was a huge passion of mine. But running wasn't just something that I did. It became the only lens that people came to understand me. And I, again, didn't have the language to tell people, hey, I'm more than my sport. 2010, I graduated, retired from my sport. I can finally shed that runner brand image, right? Surely. I can finally tell people who I am from behind this running brand, right? No, the next few years I spent searching for other people to define who I was. Stepped into career roles where I found myself code switching because I didn't know who I was. And every time I sidestepped the version that they had of me, I was treated differently, sometimes not in the best way. My husband knows. He's seeing me crying, sitting right there. 2018, I became a mother. Now, I love my babies. I love motherhood. But somewhere in those early years, motherhood became the only story that I told myself and the only one people saw. The pandemic did not help with this. I was once again living in that single identity that didn't reflect the fullness of who I was. I was lost. Yes, I said the quiet part out loud. If you're a fellow mom, I see you. You're not alone. But I realized that we are not just living and existing in perception, we are actively participating in it. And we can decide if we react to it or we can design it on purpose with intention. Now, I thought reacting was just how the world worked. Until one question started to quietly bother me. Are we building a brand even if we're not trying to? And if so, who actually owns the narrative for it? There is a quote by one of my favorite content creators. Her name is Elise.mp4 on Instagram. And she said this: if I don't tell my story, someone else will, and they'll get it wrong. That drugged me when I first read it. I hope it drugged you too. Let me read that again. If I do not write my story, someone else will, and they will get it wrong. Because she's right. If we don't shape our own narrative, life and people will happily do it for you. This was pivotal for me. Oh, you're not seeing this. I'm Marissa. I'm a brand designer and strategist. I am a multi-hyphenate creative, bona fide hype woman, solopreneur, mompreneur. I have worked in marketing for over 15 years, helping small businesses and entrepreneurs shape the way people see them. And here's the core of my talk. You are the brand. You are the brand. It is not because you're performing, but because people outside of you are always interpreting. A brand is not a logo, it is not colors, it is not a post on a social feed. A brand is people's perception of who you are. It is their truth based on their repeated and lived experiences with you, their interactions with you. And here's what doesn't get talked about enough. You don't have control over their perception. However, you have the ability to influence what they perceive. Let me say that again. So a brand is people's perception of who you are. It is their truth based on their experiences with you. However, you have the ability to influence what they perceive. That is branding. Branding with a brand with an ing. Because we are actively, right now, shaping how what gets reinforced about ourselves. Take, for instance, this moment right now. I'm standing here in front of you. Hello. And you are already shaping a perception of me. based on my storytelling, my slides, how I'm dressed. I'm up here on the TEDx stage. You saw me do a little peek at my notes. Maybe you received some information prior to coming here. You already have a perception of me. That is my personal brand. However, those are all tools that I am cohesively using to influence your perception of me. I grew up just 3 miles from here. I spent my life being misinterpreted before being understood. I'm a biracial woman. I'm black, but I sound white. I'm Mexican. I don't speak a lick of Spanish. And I realized that people need language to understand complexity. Because if you don't provide it, they'll make it up. Whether it's true or not, they'll make it up. That's why I love branding. Because branding are the tools that I or we use to influence and provide the language they need to understand us. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind. They need that to understand who we are. Let me show you, let me give you 3. So if a brand is our perception of who we are, and you're using branding to influence, how do we do that on purpose? Because people don't invest their time, money, and attention in people they do not understand. People don't remember what doesn't repeat. People don't follow people they cannot place. So how do we do this on purpose? I believe there are 3 anchors to building your personal brand. Language to the experience. 3 anchors. Not 5, not 10, just 3. Clarity, consistency, connection. Clarity is how people respond to us, how they recognize us. Clarity is how they understand us. Consistency is how they recognize us, remember us. Connection is why they choose us. Let me show you what that looks like in real life. So my husband and I, we traveled to San Luis Obispo, and we attended the farmer's market, which happens every Thursday night. We sat down, had some yummy ice cream, did a little people watching, and there was something very peculiar happening that we both noticed separately before coming together and talking about it. Every woman that was walking by us was dressed almost the same. Black pants, denim jacket. A fashion trend that would go viral on the internet for being overly saturated in crowds. Don't worry if I just called you out. I have worn this outfit plenty of times. But it was just so funny. It was crazy to see when this was going viral. Right? So I intentionally went back to the hotel, put on a green dress, knowing that I was going to stand out amongst this crowd. We returned back to the farmer's market, stood in the middle of the street, turned around, posed, had my husband snap my photo, and this is what came of it. Now, in this photo, and might I mention this is before AI. I need to make that distinction. These are real photos. But as I stood in the middle of this busy street amongst this crowd, you could see everything. A woman, very joyful to experience what I was doing. And of course, she's wearing, I kid you not, the outfit I was talking about. That's how frequently it was happening. But also, some people not so crazy about bothered and unbothered, okay? It was this moment that I had kind of like an epiphany, right? Branding doesn't mean everyone will like you. You know, it means people will understand you. And on this day in 2021, I set my intentions to go into business for myself. Because on that day, people did not see a girl who runs fast and far. They did not see I was not the motherhood label that I clung onto for so long. They didn't see a runner. They didn't see a mother. They saw a bold, ambitious woman, comfortable in her own skin, with the mother effing audacity to stand out. A brand isn't performance. It is what you repeatedly and consistently reinforce. If a brand was about performance, these things did not happen because I changed who I was. This was because I decided what I wanted to reinforce. That green dress was intentional, and I felt like me finally. When branding becomes performance, it will fall. It will fall. Because once people sense a gap between who you say you are and who you show up to be, trust disappears. Loss of time, money, and attention. We are actively seeing that happening right now. Culturally, politically, socially, morally, ethically, across companies, across industries, across influencers today. So, this matters. This matters when you walk into an interview. This matters when you go to a networking event. This matters when you start a business, when you post online. This matters when you meet people, whether it's platonically or romantically. This matters. You are already telling a story by just existing. You already have a personal brand. The question is, are you building it on purpose with intention? So, when you enter into the world, when you go about your day in the world, I want you to remember this. No one gets to decide who you are for you. No one gets to shape your narrative without your permission. You are the brand. Not someday, not when you graduate, not when you start your own business, not when you start that job, not when you become a mother or a father, not when you become someone's wife or husband or other. You already are. So the question becomes, if you're already building a brand, are you doing it on purpose? Are you doing it with intention? And once you understand that, you get to decide what is reinforced, what is repeated, what people see, how you show up, how you show out. You are the brand. We need to start building with intention. Your personal brand, building it with intention. Because once you own your voice, your brand, who you are, your lived experiences, once all that is claimed by you, life aligns, let me tell you. I'm talking from personal experience. Life aligns. So as you go about building your personal brand, yes, you are building it right here, right now, whether it's intentional or not. You have one. Be intentional about it. Make it clear with no room for ambiguity. Make it consistent with your authentic self. Make it connect. Make it connect because people remember how you made them feel. When you leave this room, I want you to spice up your life. And let's make it on brand. Thank you.